Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me so much pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Professor Benoy K Behl. Today's talk is the 22nd in the monthly series Glimpses of Culture. Professor Behl is a filmmaker, art historian, and photographer who is known for his tireless and prolific output of work over the past 47 years. He has taken over 53,000 photographs of Asian monuments and art heritage and made 146 documentaries, which are regularly screened at major cultural institutions worldwide. His photographic exhibitions have been warmly received in 74 countries across the globe. His book on the Ajanta caves is published by Thames and Hudson, London, and New York. It is among the best-selling books on Indian art history, and a new edition is coming out later this year. His recent book on the art of India in two beautiful volumes is already in its third print run. As a labor of love, Professor Behl has traveled to all corners of this vast subcontinent, documenting even remote temples and sites, not just once, but several times. The result is a breathtaking documentation of culture which provides a new perspective to Indian and Asian art and culture. What finally emerges is the deep interconnectedness of art everywhere. With his deep understanding, Professor Behl underlines the sublime philosophic vision, which is the essence of this valuable heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, Benoy K Behl speaks to us today on the beautiful Meenakshi temple of Madurai. I hand you over to him now. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sujata Chatterji. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My many thanks to the India Habitat Center for this yet one more opportunity to share a chapter from the cultural history of our subcontinent. My many thanks to Doordarshan, who sponsored the making of this film. And indeed, in this very commercialized environment of media, it is so remarkable that Doordarshan for the past 25 years have been living up to their reputation as a public broadcasting service and have sponsored the making of so many films of mine, which are very serious and deeply researched. I always remain very grateful to them. Ladies and gentlemen, the final belief in Indic philosophy, the final truth which is sought, is seen to be as nirgun, without qualities, or arupa, without form. But in the meantime, while we are in this world with all the forms, colors, and so much of the world, so many attractions of the world around us, we are presented with deities. Deities who are the personifications of so many qualities. Deities that are endowed with emotions, just like us. Our daily lives, the world as we know it, is brought to us. And the divinity of all that there is around us is shown to us. In fact, in that process, we are also shown the divinity which is within us. We are shown that we are indeed ourselves divine. So much as we see in our own living world, we see deities with spouses, we see deities with children, We see them with all the color of emotion, as much like we see in our own lives. And one of the very greatest examples of that is the great Meenakshi temple at Madurai. The temple dedicated to Parvati, spouse of Lord Shiva. A temple with two shrines, one to Parvati as Meenakshi, the fish-eyed one, Meenakshi the beautiful one, and one shrine devoted to Shiva. And in the pageantry of their love, their togetherness, in the fanfare of their coming together every day, through all this, what is in our own lives is presented to us, and presented to us so beautifully. It is a wonderful philosophy in which, while there is the height of speculative thought, while there is great abstraction, while there is the understanding of the fact that the final truth may be completely without form, without color, without touch, while that is before us and that is never forgotten, simultaneously, the entire world around us is beautifully shaped and we see the colors of the divine in it. It's absolutely wonderful how, instead of trying to deny our emotions, this philosophy, in fact, takes our emotions, takes us by the hand, takes our thoughts, takes our feelings, and guides us to understand how all is truly beautiful and all is indeed divine. So it is this marvelous world, this whole world, this temple which is so large it feels like a whole city which you are inside. This temple which is so large that the first time when I was shooting within a temple, I was there shooting for a few hours, and I had not realized that there was an area in which there were hundreds of ladies all gathered, praying with lamps before them. It is indeed a universe inside, and a universe of divinity, a universe of beauty, a universe which shows us the beauty of our emotions. So, ladies and gentlemen, I take pleasure in sharing with you this film about the Meenakshi temple. So, Shant, I would request you to please run the film. Thank you.
One of the greatest achievements of the Nayaka period in Tamil Nadu is the making of the Meenakshi temple at Madurai. It was made in the reign of Tirumalaya Nayaka in the mid-17th century and is one of the largest temples ever to be made. How much?
50 rupees.
50 rupees, okay. Thank you. What is the meaning of the bananas?
The 4 bananas.
Okay.
2 bananas are Parvati, 2 bananas Shiva.
How wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. The great Meenakshi temple is like a city in itself. has two shrines, one to Shiva and one to Parvati. Parvati as Meenakshi, the beautiful one, the fish-eyed one. So these offerings are all given accordingly. 2 bananas for Shiva, 2 for Parvati, Meenakshi. 1 coconut for Shiva, 1 for Parvati. In Indic belief, the final understanding is of the oneness of the whole of creation, which is termed Nirgun or Arupa, something which is formless, something which is beyond all forms, a great unity of all that there is. But as the great treatise states, deities are made in order that people are able to relate to them, because the abstract concepts of the formless eternal are difficult for the mind to grasp. Shiva is a personification of qualities within us. We look upon Shiva, we meditate upon him to awaken those qualities within us. Qualities of nobility, qualities of courage with which we must face the demons of our ignorance. Families are made around the deities in order that we are able to relate to the deities in a more human way. Relate to them even through our own emotions. Therefore, Parvati is made as a spouse of Shiva. And here she is as Parvati with the focus on her beauty. Meenakshi, Parvati the beautiful one. There are great festivals in this temple, annual festivals, monthly festivals, even daily festivals. One of the wonderful daily festivals is in the evening, when Shiva is taken with a great deal of fanfare to the shrine of Parvati, where he will spend the night with her. In the morning, they are woken up with sweet bhajans, divine songs, and Shiva is then taken back to his own shrine. As you might imagine, the temple is a great favorite with honeymooning couples.
Well, an essential part of the ritual life of the temple is that Shiva has to spend the night with the goddess, with Meenakshi. So every evening, a portable icon of Shiva is transported in a sort of palanquin, rather like almost like a prince, taken to the bedchamber where the goddess is present. And then the curtains are drawn, the doors are closed, and they have a night together. In the morning, he's taken back again. So the parallel is very much like a court, where a prince or ruler will spend the night with his consort. And this is essential to the functioning of this double goddess-god temple.
At 5:30 in the morning, Lord Shiva is brought back from the shrine of Parvati to his own shrine. It is wonderful to see how humanly and with how much warmth they are treated. In fact, in some Tamil temples, when Lord Shiva is taken to the shrine of Parvati, a large nose ring is taken off so that it may not scratch him at night.
The chief rite, the chief action that takes place in the temple from a religious point of view is the repeated marriage of Meenakshi to her lord Shiva. And this takes place, of course, at certain times of the year. And you see many sculptures and many paintings in the temple showing Meenakshi holding the hand of Shiva in the act of being married. And what's so interesting is that the god who gives her away is actually Vishnu. So Vishnu is also incorporated into the myth and the art of the temple. Well, there are, of course, the marriage ceremonies that take place at particular times of the year, the great festivals that leave the walls of the city, of the temple, and go into the city spaces are particularly important. What you will see on a day-to-day basis in the temple is this penetration of the commercial life of the town, that these markets, these shops that go into the great mandapas, the great columned halls of the temple. So as you penetrate into the temple, you make this transition from the lively world of everyday to a more rarefied world, I would say, of the gods, of the sanctified spaces. These huge areas that are covered by these halls and corridors, there can hardly be a temple with more covered space anywhere in the country.
The vast temple has 8 impressive gateways, one rising to almost 200 feet. These gateways or gopurams are covered with several hundreds of sculptures. Temple authorities estimate that there are 33 million sculptures in the Meenakshi complex. In the Nayaka period, large tanks were also made within the temple complexes, where devotees washed their hands and feet. We see here in the Meenakshi temple how people spend time relaxing within the temple compound. Indeed, besides being a place to meditate and to gain knowledge, the temple had grown to accommodate all aspects of life. Thereby, the temple also serves to remind us of the divinity which pervades all moments of our existence. Spectacular halls with numerous sculpted pillars were made in the Nayaka period. This 16th century hall of 1,000 pillars has almost exactly that number of massive sculpted columns. Carved out of a single slab of granite, each pillar is a monumental work of art. Yesterday was the beginning of the preparations and celebrations of the forthcoming wedding of Shiva and Parvati. Everyone was carried away in joy. In fact, that is the purpose in Indic faiths, to be carried away, to lose one's sense of the self, and therefore to attain knowledge of a greater and finer truth.
These marriage scenes with the goddess and the god together, whether in painting or bronze, are of course replicas of these acts. And in fact, many of the temples of Tamil Nadu have these, I would say, these marital myths, because the legends are extremely important in connecting goddesses who belong to a particular place Meenakshi only goes with Madurai. Pampa, for example, only goes with Hampi in Karnataka, with the great gods Shiva or Vishnu. So this marriage between a local goddess and a great god, a great pan-Indian god, is essential to the religious life of the temple. It works in two ways. These local goddesses become upgraded to become consorts of the great Hindu gods. Meanwhile, the great Hindu gods come down, in a manner of speaking, to be localized in the traditions and the landscape of a particular center. So this charge of horizontal and vertical, I would say, religious force is essential to the religious life of these temples, particularly in South India.
I don't know whether the Hindu marriage repeats it or whether the marriage of Shiva and Parvati is based on the Hindu marriage, but it is the same form, you know, the gifts that are given to the bridegroom. The most important thing though is the ter or the rathas, the chariots which go round. And for 10 days this divine marriage goes on, and each day you have a different ratha who is a devotee of Shiva. And it goes from Nandi, Adhikara Nandi, you know, because you cannot go near Shiva unless Nandi gives you the permission. So he has the Adhikara Nandi. You have Ravana, who with all his faults was a great Shiva Bhakta. Then you have the Aravati mover, the 63 saints, the Shaivite saints or Nayanmars, who are the ardent devotees of Shiva. And then you have a lot of different local vahanas. It may be the Ashwa, the peacock and so on. But one of the days is always the ter, the chariot. And what is important is that during these festivals, all the people came out. You see, you have the Sthalabera, that is the Mula Vigraham, which is the deity carved out of granite, which cannot be moved out. And then you have the bronze deities who go to the village, go through the village, go to the people. And they come to homes and they are greeted with aarti and gifts and so on. And the chariots and all are pulled by the people. And this is an occasion where caste, creed, everything breaks down. Anybody can go, even women. I have pulled chariots myself, so even women can pull the chariot. So it's a fantastic social cohesion which comes into being. But yes, the marriage ceremony is completely the Hindu marriage ceremony. Meenakshi, what do I say? It's grandiose, it's huge, it's really the ultimate in-temple building with so many gopurams, and it's a whole town within itself. I mean, the rest of Madurai, I think, developed around it. As I said, Meenakshi temple probably represents, it's probably nearest to the original lifestyle that an entire kingdom, the king's court would have led. I mean, we still have villages where you have a very traditional lifestyle, but within the Meenakshi temple complex, this is where the king and his nobles and the priests and the sthapatis and everybody would have lived. And the lifestyle is a continuing lifestyle. You have the shops and the markets selling all kinds of things, and it also adapts with the times. Like nowadays you find plastic bangles and so on, which are contemporary. But I think the most important aspect of the temple is its continuity of a certain lifestyle. And even when you go in and in and in, and finally you come to the Garbhagriha, which is quite small, and you really don't know that the village started out so small. So I think that is the main thing. And of course the rituals, the entire system over there is continuing. because whether it is the pujas done for the Navagrahas or the Rashis, which are all over the place, it still continues. There's been no letting up on any of those.
Meenakshi temple is very interesting because one of the biggest temple in South India, we can call it. Tamilians believe that they are emotionally attached to Madurai.
Goddess Meenakshi is a daughter of Pandya Maharaja. Goddess Meenakshi was taught all the skills for a king, and she was made a princess of Pandya kingdom. Then she defeated all the places in this world and she went to Kailash. While seeing Lord Shiva in Kailash, she felt herself that she is the pair of Lord Shiva. Then only she realized that she is the Parvati. Every day there will be a procession in the morning and also in the evening. This procession is basically for the physically ill people and who cannot come to the temple and who cannot see the temple, that is main deity. For themselves, Lord Shiva himself coming outside and giving darshan to them. I am also a degree holder, but it is our family, we are a hereditary priest of this temple. So we learnt all the puja mantras and everything, and the puja system, everything from the childhood itself. There will be a class for us in evening. Every day after coming from school, we used to learn Veda, and then we come to this temple after getting married. Only after marriage we are eligible to do the puja. Before marriage we are not supposed to touch the idol or enter into the sanctum. Education is just to gather a knowledge, but temple and temple pujari work is apart from that knowledge. It is a very, what do you say, the world knowledge is here. Getting salary and working for some others, it is different from doing a pujari work. Pujari work is pleasing the entire society. It is a service to the society, not to myself.
As per the Brahmins, we are every time to quiet, so that we won't hanker with everybody. We do the service from the chanting the mantras and do the service from the peoples. When I start the education, when I was young, 8 to 15 years, I studied for the part-time for the Agama Vedic in Madurai Meenakshi Temple, Padasala.
I born in December 1951 at Madurai, just behind where I am standing, that is 100 meters away from the temple. I actually studied near the temple only. That school name is called is Annakuri Mandapam, which was also attached to the temple, and our playground was inside the temple only. So from my age of 5, I started visiting a temple regularly. I was working in Madura Courts, leaders in textile in Madurai, Courts Vaila UK group as a senior executive export marketing. What is the relationship my hand is for me? This is the same relation with my temple. Meenakshi mean to me, all to me. Actually, suppose I have something in my mind, suppose some problem is not solved by me, I thought of her. Definitely she gave solution to that. For normal human being, what they do, when get problem, the money will come. But here, the money comes first, then only the problem comes. That is the Meenakshi. The temple actually, it is center of the city. It is just, the city is just like a leaf of the lotus. The center is temple. That is where the civilization has started in Madurai 3000 years back.
The Meenakshi temple at Madurai is a world complete in itself. Within its vast spaces, we are taken far from the confusions and concerns of the material world. It celebrates the divinity which is in all aspects of life. The ancient rituals of the temple awaken the sense of joy which can be found deep within us. A sense of joy which colors our lives completely.
My many thanks to Sushant for another excellent screening. Thank you so much. How wonderful. From the abstraction of the understanding of the Nirgun, the formless eternal, we are taken to a personal relationship with the divine through the creation of deities. And the personal relationship with the divine is then taken to intimacy through the marvelous emotional contact, through seeing the divine, much like us, connected deeply through our emotions. How wonderful. And it is all done with so much detail, so much aesthetic pleasure. As was said in the film, there are temples in Tamil Nadu where Parvati's large nose ring is taken off when Shiva is brought to her at night so that it may not scratch Shiva. How delightful, how beautiful. And all of it awakens that joy within us. All of it awakens that grace within us, finally leading us away from the noise and confusion of the world that surrounds us, finally leading us always to grace. I'll be happy to answer some questions if you have, and I will request Sujata to please read them out from the chat box.
Till the questions come, I'd like to announce the next screening, which is on the 17th of June, same time. It's a Saturday, 6 o'clock. And this time from the deep south, we're traveling up north, and it's the early temples of Himachal. That's the name of the film. So please do mark it on your calendars, and we'd so much like for all of you to be here with us. Thank you. Arun Bhargav, namaste. In our temple, we have a mural of Shiva and Meenakshi marriage, and also temple of Meenakshi. Today I understand the story behind it. Thank you.
I'm so glad. It is indeed a marvelous story which is woven. It is a marvelous weaving, in fact, of our emotions with our love of the divine. And I'm so glad that you have this in your temple at Minnesota. Thank you, Arun.
Riti Mishra, very informative presentation as usual. Namaste from Dublin.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm glad that you are in Dublin. It's a beautiful place, and I hope that both of you are enjoying it very much.
Raza Hasnain, another great film by you, Benoy. I find it fascinating how local goddesses are married to pan-Indian gods.
It is a beautiful weaving together of all the traditions to all come together towards what is finally important. The journey towards knowledge, the journey to leave behind the confusions of the material world, the journey towards peace, the journey leaving the clamor behind towards silence. It's all of it connected to the same, and all the threads are brought together to make the beautiful weave. Thank you.
Parimala, thank you, Professor Behl, for this delightful presentation and giving us a close look at the great divine leader of the Madurai Meenakshi temple. Just wanted to ask, in your vast experience of temples across the country, does a similar ritual exist in North India too?
This ritual of the daily coming together, celebrated, in fact, with all the fanfare of a marriage, and followed by weekly, monthly, and annual rituals. No, this is not. I have not seen it being happening in North India. Thank you.
Arun Bhargav asking, is Meenakshi temple under government control? Who manages it?
From what I understand, this temple, as well as so many other vast temples, are run by a temple trust, and that trust does have governmental representation on it. Thank you.
Dipankar Mukhopadhyay, pranam to my teacher.
Very kind of you, a person of your learning and stature. It's always so wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Vajayanti would like to know why you chose to start the timeline of the temple construction to the Nayaka period, especially Thirumalai Nayaka.
It is in this period that the temple reached, as we said, the final form in which we see it. These are temples where, for instance, the origins of the temples would go back into to a further past. But the temple as we see it today is of that period. Thank you.
Tara, I like the fact that in spite of Lord Shiva having a shrine to himself in there, it's still Meenakshi temple.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And there is much in ancient thought that one should look at and should learn from. Some of the attitudes which are prevalent in the modern world were not really there in ancient times. In fact, I have a talk which I sometimes give about the place of women in ancient India, which was a very high place. Perhaps I will give that talk in a few months on this forum. Thank you.
This is Vajayanti clarifying something, saying that this temple comes under the state government's HR and CE department.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Parimala saying that talk would be fascinating.
Indeed, we should do that as soon as we can.
Look forward to it. I think that's about it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was indeed a great pleasure to take you through the colorful spaces of the Meenakshi temple, the temple where all our intellectual quest is seen with the colors of emotions and love. One of the most beautiful monuments, I think, in its own way, in the entire world. A great, we could say, one of the great temples to love. One of the great temples which brings together the love of the divine and its reflections in human love. Thank you all very much.